Hello again. So far we've created the user's detail, user list, and a dummy component for the user list item. Also in our user service, we set up a function to get a list of users and a single user with the ID parameter from the browser. Now it's time for us to create a user dashboard where the users will be able to update their data. So to start, let's go to the dashboard component.html and let's start scaffolding the basic structure of the user interface. Let's create a navbar. Let's create a navbar here on the top. So let's go to the Material Angular website and grab a component called toolbar. Here, as you can see, it's just a basic toolbar. In the examples, you can get colored or with icons. We need a matte toolbar and a matte toolbar row. First, let's import to our app the API, material. Just paste in there. Now back in our components. Let's add a button. Inside, let's put an icon. It's back. This is a back arrow. Let's give some styling to the bottom. Let's add a span tag with a class of spacer. This you use to spread the toolbar items apart. So let's add a button, and we're gonna use done. So matte button. Now for this to work, we need a click event, which you set the editing mode to false. And we also need to check with ngIf what is the state of the editing. If it's true, this button will show. If not, we're gonna show edit profile button. Here, if it's not editing, and when the person clicks, it will be true. So when the user clicks it, we're going to show a button with done, so they can edit and finish it. Now let's create this editing variable in our dashboard component. And give it a false. Now click, and it changes from edit done or not. Now let's create two containers. One for the editing mode to show a form, and the view mode, the non-editing mode, to show the user's detail. For that, we're going to use ng container. And what this container does is it will check if there's a user. We're gonna use a ngIf user. It will return the data within. If there isn't a user, it won't break our app. This is just a safeguard. Let's add the user to our component as well. So let's add the user, and it will be a user object, and we need to import it from our users model. There we go. So now it's gone. Let's create two containers, two divs inside in here, one for the editing mode and the other one for the view mode. So a div, this is gonna be hidden if editing evaluates to false. Let's create another one for the editing mode. And here we need to check if it's editing or not. But for this to work, and for us to be able to see something here, we need to actually have a user to display. So let's go back to our component dashboard and create a function called getUser. And this will return the authenticated users. And for it to work, we need to import our auth service. Just import up here. Let's add it to the constructor. Service. Now we can return this auth.user, and now we're gonna subscribe to this user so we can get the data. The result user, we're going to set our instance user here equals to the result. So we are subscribing to the authenticated user, taking the returning data and set it as our instance user here. Now let's call this function on the ng on init. Now we reload, we have a user, and we can click and it will change between edit and view mode. Now let's add some styling to this, what you have in here at the moment. So the bottom will go to the other side. But before, let's talk about CSS variables. Although material design give us some colors for the predefined colors, like if you give it a color in here, primary, it will turn blue. Although they give us this option, we might want to add our own color. And for that, let's use a CSS variable to predefine some colors that you can use across our app. If you scroll down and go to styles.css, let's create some variables in here. To create a CSS variable that we can use throughout our app, you can target the root, and here we can create some variables. App background color, let's give it a slightly shade of gray. And up. And for the variable names, the only thing you need to do is to add the -- app. The rest you can choose anything you like. Now we can use this inside our component. If you go to CSS, and here we can use var, and then use the variable we created in the global CSS style sheet. There we have it. I just need to add a color so it's white. Let's give some spacing here and between the buttons, and you can use that. Remember, we created a spacer span tag. Let's just add it to the global so we can reuse it after. And let's also add margin 0. As you can see here, there's a space in between our toolbar. And let's use the app background in here. Now we have our bottom spread and no margin around our toolbar. Okay, let's get going then. Let's build the view mode first. Let's create a div and give it a photo URL class so we can target it with CSS. We're going to add a user photo URL as a background image, and we're going to use the ng style to display it. Angular will add this background image tag dynamically. Now let's create an input type file so we can start to upload image and accept images any type. Let's give it the name of file, an ID of file, And this is all HTML specs. There's nothing to do with Angular. This is for us to target with CSS. I'm going to use the change to get the upload event. I'm gonna wait for the event in here. We still need to create the upload photo URL function in our component. Now let's create a label. It's for the file. That's why you put in a name in here so we can target with the label. And let's call it change photo. This is also a custom CSS class I'm creating. You can name everything. And this is just to target the text part of a hero, which we need to create in here. Div hero. And in this hero, we will have the photo and the text. So here just put h1 and display the user this name. And let's use a p tag to display the user email. Not showing properly is because we haven't created any CSS yet. Now I'm just gonna paste some CSS for the sake of time. You can just pause the video and copy it. And now if you click on the image, it will open the File Explorer and you can choose an image. Let's also add some hero CSS. Hero, not here. There you go. Click Edit. And for the text, let's give some margin so it's not stuck on the corner of the browser. And hero text. Now I have some breathing room here. Okay, now let's carry on and create the form for the editing mode. Here we're gonna display a math card and show the form inside. And we're gonna have one for name and one for email. Here we're going to be using two functions, one to update the profile and the other to update the email. And if you go to the Firebase documentation, we have two options in here. One is to update the user's profile, which will take a display name and a photo URL. And the other is to update the email. You cannot update both together because the update email will give you an error if the user is logged for quite some time. So it will ask the user to re-authenticate so he can update his email. So let's go ahead and create these two forms. Just gonna paste in here. Here we have a math card with a math form field. I'm adding a math suffix button with the click event to update the profile, and the other one for the email, which looks like this. And the math hint is just to show the save in here on the bottom. Now let's go ahead and create these two functions so we can update this. But before, let's just fix this form field so it displays full width. Now it's better. Okay, let's hook up those functions. And the first one, let's do the update profile. And this will return a function we're still going to create in our user service to talk to Firebase. But first, let's just pass the data from the form. This dot, gonna call user service, and over there we're gonna create a function called update profile. And here we're gonna pass this.user.displayName and this.user.photoURL. And these details are coming from the user in here. So before we go and undo our user service, let's create the update email and pass the email to the service as well. So update email, and this will return same service update email, and we pass this.user.email. Here in the constructor, let's add the private method for the user service. It's being auto imported in here for me with VS Code. Now let's go ahead and create our service functions. Date profile, and this will take the display name and the email and the photo URL. Both string. So let's import our auth service. Now we can use it to get the user ID, the current user ID. Let's create a constant user and hook it up to the auth state. Also, let's create a data object to hold the display name and the photo URL. Okay, now we can return the user.update profile. This is coming from Firebase. Let's change this one in here so we don't get confused to data. This is from Firebase SDK, and you pass in it the data. If you remember, here in the documentation, it says that the update profile, it takes a display name and a photo URL, and it's a promise. So here we getting the current user, getting the data from the component, and then saving to the data variable and passing it to the update profile. Now let's continue with the function. We're gonna then save it to the database, to our own database. This one saves to the Firebase object, but now we need to save it to our own database. This.fs doc, and now we're gonna get the path to the user, use the string interpolation to get the user UID. Then we're gonna call update, and this function comes from Angular Fire 2, and we're gonna pass display name and photo URL. Let's console log so we can get some feedback. Okay, and also catch some errors. Okay, let's go and test it. This button will not work because we changed the name of the function in here. We need to go back to our user and change this one. Let's do the same for the email in here. So we don't get confused with Firebase SDK function. So now we can test. Click Save. Your profile has been updated. Here in the Firebase SDK is the data. And here's the data. Let's go change again. The Firebase object and change in our database. So it works as intended. Now let's do the same for the email. And this will take the email from our component. Here we also need the user ID. And we return the user.update email. We'll pass the email. Now we're gonna save it to our database, same as we did before on the profile. And update email. Here needs to be an object. Now let's also console log. Let's just show the email on the console log as well. Now, if you remember, we also needed to send a verification email to confirm the user's email. So let's do it now as well with another then. But now we need to pass the user. Use the off state so we can get the send email verification. And then we're gonna console log if it's successful. And let's catch errors as well. Now we're gonna catch the error for the update email. So now let's go ahead and try. Our service is running. Let's go on the email. Let's change this one for .com. Click. And we get this error that I mentioned to you. So let's go ahead and clear our user, re-authenticate. Successfully signing. I have my user in here. Let's go back to our dashboard. And now let's edit it. .com. Save it. Your email has been changed and we send a verification. Back in our Firebase console, the email has been changed in the database, also on the Firebase user object. Let me just change it back now. SK. Save it. Your email has been updated to flaviofolly.sk and we send a verification. And as you can see, my email verified is equal to false. Here in my email, I have the confirmation email. It's been verified. Now, it's after reload, email verified true. So everything works. Let's stop in here now and let's work in the uploader in the next lesson.